And in front of me here, I have a bunch of different tools that I use for sanding. I had to get my soda here. If I'm going to talk for an hour, I got to have a wet mouth. The tools that I use for sanding, these are from Eastwick, and these are different shaping tools. And you have an outside curve. I have two sizes of that here. A large one for this is like 1/2 inch, and this is for 1/4 or 3/16 for the edge of the flaps. That's kind of important to get things symmetrical. Then I have two of the round ones. These are the most popular ones that I use. It's 3/8 and 1/4 inch inside sanding blocks. This is a rubber squeegee that I use when I wet sand by 3M. Then I have a triangular inside block. Now, these are just aids that you can use. Of course, these are the women's nails files, and I go into Walgreens and I buy the whole container. They come in a round, clear container, and the lady will say, well, you know, how many you want? I want them all. So I use those. I also use different things like motor mounts and sticks and things. And when we do our Control Line Craftsman video on notching the ribs, we're going to be using something like this to notch those ribs. Then I have my metal backed ruler, and I have two different grades of sandpaper on this. One side is 180 and the other side is 80. So these are just some of the quick basic sanding tools that I use. I also have the Dremel Trio. This is a larger shanked bit. It goes in a drill. It's a 1/2 inch. Then of course the Dremel, and these have 80 grit sanding drums on them. And I use a lot of 80 grit. My two long sanding bars are always filled with 80 grit. So let's say that I'm doing a beam wing or something and I want to go from root to tip. I use this bar because it's extruded aluminum and it's straight. And then of course I have a smaller one with 80 grit on it if I'm just doing the side of a fuselage and things like that. And I'm going to demonstrate some sanding because I've been working on this P51B and I had to put some more super fill on it. I also use a Bodyman's block. It has 30 grit on it. This piece of 30 grit has been on this block. One piece of 30 grit has been on this block 10 years. And so I use that. And of course, I just got my DuraBlock, and I'm really happy with this. And that's part number 6503-621. And it's 100% EVA rubber. And I found out what that was. And I'm going to see if I can buy that in bulk from Cope Plastics or something like that. And then, of course, the 2 rolls of sticky back paper that go along with that. So now we've talked about some of the tools and some of the paper. Of course, as far as hand sanding goes, these are the papers that I've been using. These are 3M. It's a well-known brand name, 220s. This is a Lowe's product. It's a gold open coat. And for the money, this is probably the best sandpaper out there. It's $7 for 5 sheets, but these last 3 times as long. So these are really good. I get that in, this is 80, I think. Yeah, 80, 220. I use a lot of 80 grit. Now this paper here, I got from Harbor Freight. 99 cents for 15 sheets or whatever. It's not the greatest paper, but for the price, you can't hardly beat it. And I go through a lot of sandpaper. I got that in 80 and 60 grit. And Harbor Freight sells that. And they also have the 1200 wet and dry, and this is Harbor Freight sandpaper, and 220 grit. So these are, relatively inexpensive grits of sandpaper. Well, tonight we're not going to be sanding with these power grits, as I call them. We're going to sand with some 320. So I put that aside. Sanding. I'm always sanding. This is a block that you can buy in the paint supply store, and I took it and I cut it in thirds. And these are not cheap, but let's see. I think I sanded them. Anyway, this block was one piece at one time, and I cut it into thirds. And I use these small pieces, and you can get a better handle on things. And I use this sticky back paper on that. I'll throw that away. Makes it real handy to shape with. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is I told you about warpage. And this is a piece, we're probably going to do our first steaming tutorial with this piece right here. This is the cowl piece that I finished up, and if you look down the line here, I think you probably can see it on camera. It's warped something fierce. It's warped so bad that it won't stay on the airplane. So we're going to steam it and straighten it out, and I might do a video on steaming this. But I've been working on the P-51, and I've been working on it longer than I really had anticipated. Oh man, I shouldn't have put it on the floor. Oh well. We'll get over it. Anyway, let's see here. That's the bad thing about live streaming. I can't hide mistakes. It's not really a mistake. I just set it on the floor and I got some of the carpet stuck to the putty. The putty is still drying tonight. I've had to do a considerable amount of puttying on this airplane in different spots. But I feel that after about 4 coats of dope now, this airplane is ready to start sanding with 320. So tonight, this is not a wet sanding evening, this is just a dry sand. But I did do some wet sanding on the Thunderbolt pieces. This putty is not quite dry yet, so I got to stay off of it. And I'm just open-handed, sticky back paper, knocking the hides off. It got its last brush coats yesterday. I can't do any more brushing if we're going to come out with a nice finish. So now it's all sprayed and it's all sanding. It's all about the sanding, and it always is. This airplane should be in color by the weekend. I've got the decals made for it. We're going to do the invasion stripes and all the military marking and ink panel lines and all that business. And I think this, oh man, I got to stay off that. This putty is just too wet. I think he's going to be really happy with this one. It'll be cool. If there's any questions on sandpaper this evening, I see there's 8 guys watching. If there's any questions on sandpaper, please type into the chat area. Oh, I know what it was. There's a gentleman that keeps emailing me, or questioning me on the chat box here, and it's all good to ask me the questions because I'll be more than happy to answer about things like what air pressure, what what sandpaper, what dope percentages. I always never go more than 60-40 dope. At 60% thinner, 40% dope. I always finish sanding before with 320. You can go down to 400 or 600 or whatever, but I really don't feel that it does anything except waste time. On air pressure, I use an Iwata airbrush. It's a dual action Iwata HP BCS Eclipse airbrush. I used to use a Pache, and I also have a DeVelvis. But I saw a couple of videos of guys getting really good results with that Iwata, and I decided I'd switch, and I know why they get good results. It's a really, really good quality airbrush. It's pretty pricey, comes from Japan. But it's just like anything, you know, you're going to pay, you're going to play. And the reason why I keep standing over this spot right here is I've been reshaping this. It had a big strike here, big, and I cut that out. The gentleman called me up and said, "Can you cut that out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll cut it out." So I'm trying to get it to where you can't tell it was ever there. I'm not sure on the steaming video whether we'll be doing a video or what, but I really need to get you guys familiar with steaming because that really will save your bacon. I can steam this straight with not much problem at all. And that's what we're going to do. So this evening, for the next 45 minutes, I'll be up here in the shop tinkering, sanding. We're gonna get possibly the first coat of DC 540 on this tonight, and there's not really a rush to do that because DC 540 dries within 5 minutes and you can be sanding, so it's not like I have to spray it on and wait a day. Here's the DC 540. It's Colorline Napa DC 540, and the part number is DC 540 Gray Primer, and it's about $3 a can, $3.50 a can. I buy it by the case. They ought to endorse me and pay me to do advertising for them. And they would if I had 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber here, be sure to subscribe. But I don't want you to subscribe and then unsubscribe. So if you're not interested in learning how to build control line airplanes, you don't have a like mind, you don't know these, don't subscribe because it's not worth it. I'm not in this for the subscribers. I'm not. You got to understand, if you're going to do model airplanes, you're not going to get rich. I'd have to do stupid shit to get rich. There's somebody who posted stupid shit, made $950 million posting stupid shit on here. If you don't believe me, do a search. Top 10 YouTubers on here. $950 million for stupid shit. But that is the mindset of the American public. I think it's brain rot. Remember when your mother was saying, "Get away from there, it'll rot your brain." Well, I don't think they paid attention. Still no comments. Let me know if you're on there and if you can hear okay. Because I can't hear. I have the sound turned off. Otherwise, you guys be getting a feedback. I got quite a few favorite followers on here. And as the channel grows, we're going to do this every night. Come right hell or high water, I'm going to do this every night at 7 o'clock. So it's, instead of watching some stupid shit on TV, you can come in here and watch me talk about stupid shit. You can talk about anything you want here. It's kind of open season. Sound is good. Okay, Mark. I don't have a sound engineer. I don't have a video engineer. I got to do all this myself. I don't know whether the rolling was right. You know, I don't know. I just do what I can do, I guess. So, if you followed along on some of these videos when I was working on this, I said that I wasn't going to tissue the plywood, and I didn't. I've put clear dope on it and block sanded it, and it's going to be absolutely fine. And you ask, well, why didn't I tissue it? All you're doing when you add tissue is trying to seal the grain. And all it does, if I'm putting tissue where it's not needed, is all you're doing is toting around weight that there's no need. Now let's so there's no tissue on the fuselage, and it should be fine. Been blocked and this putty's not dry yet. Yeah, this putty's not dry yet. I'm going to set this aside until later. We'll talk about something else that was sanding on. Sanding. If you're going to be an airplane builder, you're going to have to be a sander. I better put a piece of paper down so it doesn't stick to the carpet again. Okay, we're still going to talk about sanding because sanding is the most important part of model airplane building. But we're going to talk a little bit more about closer to finish sanding. Now, during the last 2 days, I built this rudder, and I applied the substrate, and 3 coats of dope, and then 3 coats of dope over the top of the clear, sanding with 320 between each coat. Well, now this has been setting today, and it's, believe it or not, this dope is drying extremely fast. I also hinged this, in case you didn't notice. I hinged this today with the Robart hinges, and all that's for is to give the illusion that it's hinged scale-like. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this with 1200. And you think, well, why am I sanding with 1200? Well, I'm sanding with 1200 because I don't have any 600. But now we're going to talk about the foam block that I get. This foam block is pretty inexpensive. You buy these in a paint store. It's hard rubber on this side, soft rubber on this side. And I know I'm going to get asked a question on this next step, because that's just the way it goes. Why am I using Windex? I use a lot of Windex because all we're trying to do is make a lubricant. So you're using the Windex as a lubricant. Now, the best lubricant obviously is soapy water. Soapy water works real great, real good. But I'm going to shoot this with Windex. I'm going to use the soft side of this and 1200 grit sandpaper. And we're going to sand this until it's completely flat. And what I mean flat is it'll go all dull. And when it's uniformly dull all over, that's when you can stop. That's when it's 100% sanded as best as possible. I'm taking this out. These are easier to sand this way. And this is the zen of sanding. This is color sanding. And you say, well, what do you mean color sanding? It's not color. Well, normally when you're doing this type of sanding with 1200, you're going from one color to the next. And any of the painters know what I'm talking about. And what we're going to end up with here when I get this all flat is that this piece is going to be ready. Well, it's ready to paint right now, basically, without any primer. But it's going to be like a piece of plastic or a piece of metal. And I'm going to do that to the wings as well, but instead of brushing another coat of dope on the wings, I'm going to spray a coat on. And I'm not going to do that until I'm ready to spray these other airplanes, so I've got to get that in the works. Now I'm going to try to get a paper towel and wipe this fluid off here to see whether you can see what I'm talking about, that it's flat. And when I say flat, I mean it's 100% dull all the way across. I'm out of paper towels, so. Okay. I'm not sure the camera's going to pick it up, but I'm going to try to explain it. Across this sheet here, it's relatively dull all the way across, but there's a few low spots where it has shiny spots. spots, and those shiny spots are lows, or the dull is high, and we want to blend that all together. Here's a real good one right there. We want to blend that all together until it's all completely dull. Now, the reason I'm doing this type of paint job on this particular airplane, first off, it's a real slick airplane to build because nobody has them. And it flies relatively well if they're light. But the biggest reason I'm doing this is weight. And you say, what do you mean weight? Well, I used clear dope as the substrate. I used clear dope to fill this. When I take an airbrush and come back over this with my metallic gray, I don't need any primer. It'll lay right down if this is completely smooth. So on this particular airplane, I'm going to sand more for a lighter finish. Any question? So here we have the piece. There's still a few spots up in here. I'll keep sanding a little bit more. Like I say, the only reason why I'm using 1200 is I don't have 600, so you just have to sand twice as long. But I've shown these sanding tools, and using the tools to your advantage is probably the biggest thing that you can learn to do in your model building is what tool is the proper tool and how to use it in the proper way. That's perfect. So that won't take much to fill. Still a couple little spots right there. We'll get the edge. And the more that you tinker with the finish like this, the lighter the finish is going to be, believe it or not, and the better it's going to look. I do not ever have not I am not a advocate of silver. I see Wendy do it, so I see a lot of guys do it and they get away with it. If you can get away with it, more power to you. But that ain't me. I'd rather do it this way. This is 100% old school what I'm doing here in the process. And we're going to do the same thing over here, only I'm not going to get as carried away with the finish on that P51. And the only reason why I'm not sanding on it is that the putty's not dry. I should have puttied it yesterday morning, I guess. Anyway, we're getting the flats to come out. And when you see my airplanes, you wonder what the, how you. It's all right here. It's all in sandpaper. Sanding is the key. And I've been sanding 50 years. I find that so hard to believe, it's ridiculous. I have a good sanding arm. Okay. That side went a whole lot faster, and we got it pretty flat. I don't know whether the camera will show that or not, but it's all flat. So we'll continue on to the rudder itself. I might as well just blow right through the whole thing here. And I won't have to do, when I put this airplane together, I won't have to do any more sanding back here. None. This is done. Oh, I am going to set up for a steaming video downstairs. because I forgot I have another piece to steam, so there'll be 2 pieces. And I'll announce that steaming video, and I would suggest that if you've never steamed before, that you watch that video. And I'll get that going tomorrow. I went to the thrift store, it's been years ago, and I bought a cast iron tea kettle, the old style tea kettle. And you can buy a metal tea kettle, but they just don't hold the heat, and they don't put out the superheated steam like the cast iron kettle does. And I can put that on the stove, and I use gas to heat that superheated steam, and it really comes out of there. And I'm going to show you this, and I want you to be extra careful, and I'll tell you a story about that. I don't want anybody to burn themselves, so I'm relieving myself from any liability on burns. Here's why I say that. In the days of hobby epoxy, the hobby epoxy would always get harder than terrible. Well, you take the hobby epoxy and you put it in the microwave, it freezes it up. Well, I made that statement, I think it was on Stuka. Somebody did it and they burned themselves, and then, oh man. I apologize that you burned yourself, but everybody's got to have a little common sense. Shit in the microwave coming out of there are going to be pretty hot. Same with the oven. You don't. You only stick your finger in the light socket one time. And then you go, wow, that's not a good trick. When I was a kid, I always saw the grown-ups plugging shit into the wall. I grabbed one of my mom's bobby pins, and I stuck that bobby pin in the wall, and boy, did it get hot quick. It just glowed red, shocked the crap out of me, knocked me back. But you know what? I never did that again. You discover an extreme respect for electricity when you stick a bobby pin in a wall socket. And that's the whole problem with today's society. Nobody wants to let anybody learn anything on their own, so nobody knows what the heck's going on when you stick a bobby pin in a wall socket. So don't do that. Not a bright idea. But I was only, I think, about 8 years old. No, I was 6 years old. That's when I ran that stop sign through my head. Maybe that's what happened. Back when I used to eat Cracker Jacks, little metal toys used to come inside the Cracker Jack box. Their definition of a toy today is a paper a paper cartoon or whatever. I guess maybe they had some liability issues or whatever. When I was a kid, we eat Cracker Jack and get metal cars and little stupid tinfoil, actual pieces. Then it went to plastic. When plastic came out, now it's paper. You don't get shit. So. Everything's about greed. Anyway, we have this piece. It's completely flat, completely smooth. We're not going to clear. We're not going to use any more clear. We're not going to use any primer on this. It's ready for color. Probably take 2 coats of color to cover that, and that's it. I've got to keep these pieces in the back as light as absolutely possible As I stated, I used 2 of the row barred hinges just for the simple fact I could have used my hinging system, but this rudder and rudder doesn't move. It just is a static hinged piece. So that'll look fine like that. So I have been babbling 34 minutes. Yep, 34 minutes about sanding. What can I talk about sanding for the next 30 minutes? Coming up with an hour's program is a pretty tough thing to do. I guess I can sand on this other piece, and we're going to go back the other way. This piece here, the elevator, is ready for the same thing. So I'll just go ahead and sand this out. And I know it's rather boring to watch me sand, but I get a lot of requests for sanding videos, and here you go for you guys that want to do that. I'm thinking that I'm going to have to hold my live streaming down to 1 stream a day. The build along class was going to be 1 hour a day, every day. I can't do that. I'm going to have to do the building classes every other day. So tonight we're going to miss the building class. If you want to get a jump on the project, the assignment is measure back 3 inches from the leading edge and make 1/4 inch notches top and bottom of all the ribs. And that should kind of fill your time for the hour. But I can't emphasize sanding more to people than what I've done. Sanding is where it's at. You're going to have a front row airplane. You're going to have an airplane that you're proud of, and it's not going to weigh 80 ounces or 90 ounces. This is where it's at, sanding. The chrome process is 50 millionths thick. It's an electric process, and this, everybody asks, well, why isn't there a drip on the end of the part when it comes out of the tank? Well, that's not how that works. It's an electrolysis process, and this is a painted process, but the theory, in my mind, is basically the same. My buddy at St. Louis Plating, I used to go down to his shop, and I'd go in there and I'd watch those polishers, and they'd do the same thing we're doing here. They would sand, file, buff, shape the pieces of metal until they were absolutely 100% smooth and they looked like chrome before they went in the tank. And if you don't think so, just go down and ask your plater, can you go back there and watch for 10 minutes or whatever? And you'll find that's exactly what happens. That part is 100%. It looks like chrome before it hits the tank. And the chrome is just a coating to keep that metal shiny. And that's why it's only 50 millionths thick. It doesn't have to be thick to protect anything, or to make it shiny. It's just there to protect it. Okay, that was pretty good. That turned out pretty good. So now we'll do the bottom. Sanding, sanding, sanding. I think the biggest hit on here so far is 10 or so watching. I'm not sure. Somebody's got a notification here for me. Let's see. I'll wait to look at that. These pieces will be ready to install, ready to, to paint as soon as I get the fuselage. As soon as it goes together, they're ready to paint. I don't have to do any of the sanding when the airplane's together. And it's made it kind of handy that I'm working on the other airplanes, because normally when I'm in my course of building, I'm working on one airplane, mine. So I just stick right with it from start to finish, and it's done. Well, here I'm working on all these other airplanes with different projects, and I can set this down and move on to something else to come back to it, and so on and so forth. So it's really been a good deal, and this is probably the best work I've ever done, for the simple fact it's not rushed. Will it be the lightest piece I ever built? Probably not, but it will be nice. You can bet on that. And I think the biggest thing that I wanted to do with this particular build is I want to build an electric plane with off-the-shelf cheap stuff, so that you don't have to spend $1 million on a Plattenberg and $100 on a super speed controller and timers and all this. I just really believe that if it's good enough for the RC guys, why wouldn't it be good enough for us? And while talking to one guy, we were talking about airflow over the motor. I see the RC guys, their motors and their everything is just, there's no airflow over any of this stuff, and they don't have any problems. Here we have all kind of big holes and tunneling, and so if it's good enough for the RC guys, I think it's probably good enough for us. When the hour is over, like I said, Control Line Craftsman is going to be postponed till tomorrow night. Your assignment for tonight is to notch those ribs 3 inches back from the leading edge, top and bottom, 1/4 inch, or you don't have to. You don't have to do nothing. Take a break. It probably would be best if you saw what I was talking about instead of me just telling you. But I just can't rack myself to death doing these streams and videos and sanding and trying to get all this work done. Pretty tough to do. It's been a pretty rigorous schedule. So we got this sanded now. If I was ready to paint, these are ready. These pieces are ready to paint with no primer. Maybe one more sanding, I don't know. But let's see. Does everybody see how the hinges work now? I mean, because I get asked a gazillion times about these hinges. I think I might have it on the wrong side. Maybe. No, I have it on the right side. Had it on the right side the first time. Sandpaper. Any questions about sandpaper? Where to get it? I mean, the questions that I'm being asked on the forum and in emails. You know, I'm here to answer those questions now. If you got a question on sanding and sandpaper, because that's what this discussion's about this evening. The need for sanding. When you think you got it sanded all the way, go back and sand it again. And when you're done there, you can probably sand it one or two times more. You're never done sanding. Randy Powell says that the finish is never done. It's only abandoned. Or maybe that's Wendy. I don't know who said it. That's probably a pretty true statement. So let's sand this last piece up and we're done. We did the elevator, rudder, and stabilizer and elevators in a little less than 45 minutes. And I mean, they're finished. These are not, these pieces are, you know, I'm sure that Bob Hunt or Billy, Paul Walker, Brett Buck, anybody that's in the, you know, a good builder would use these pieces as is, as they are. They're ready to go. And it didn't take a lot of effort to do it this way, which is kind of cool, because the least amount of effort is always best. I'm glad to see that the live stream is starting to take off. If you guys want me to do these, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share. The only thing that's going to keep me doing these is if I know that they're getting, you know, I'm not going to do them if there's no interest. Let's put it that way. And the only way you can show me interest is to hit that thumbs up button. Make a comment, share it, whatever it takes. We're gonna bring back control lines somehow. If the government didn't take it away from us in its last brouhaha, I don't know. We'll know in a couple of days. I think I might put a call in to Dave and see if he's going to tell me exactly what the new ruling's going to be. Probably not. I think he's under a gag order, or maybe don't know. I don't know. I just think it's pretty crappy that they can overrule Congress without a vote, without, bureaucrats or something else. The children, safety, no. Oh no, Mr. Bill. What they don't understand is these knuckleheads flying these things aren't going to register them anyway. So all they're doing is making it tough on us. Are they going to have the drone police out and drone prisons? So anyway, I have talked for 51 minutes now. 51 minutes non-stop about superfluous crap. I'm hoping that you're getting something out of it.